How's it going, everyone? My name is Justin, and welcome to another episode of the Street Fighter podcast. It has been, 8 months since our last recording, but we're back as both a year-end wrap-up for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. We're going to be talking Championship Edition that just launched, I guess, Sunday?
Well, the Championship Edition doesn't come out until the 14th of February, but the new Season 5 patch just dropped yesterday.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about that today.
Semantics.
We're going to be talking about Seth, V-Skill 2s. I think you've played with more of those than I have. Some of the patch notes, I haven't read over all of them, but we're going to talk about those and our characters. We're also going to be talking about a little bit about the Capcom Pro Tour in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's jump into
crazy.
it. We're going to start off right at the top. I've made a bunch of show notes on this, so this actually might run a little bit longer than our episodes were in the past, which is around 40 minutes-ish.
That's what I like.
But I want to, I thought about this throughout the day because I was trying to come up with a way to come into this subject without it being super negative. Mm-hmm. But kicking things off is just the Capcom Pro Tour as a whole in 2019. Mm-hmm. Before we started recording, something that I was letting you know is that I hadn't really been following the Capcom Pro Tour much in 2019. And I think that even though it's had these pocketed moments of being really cool, I feel like as kind of like a whole, it's actually kind of been really bad.
You think so?
I think I hold like a very interesting perspective in this because I haven't been watching. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been watching. I just kind of like check in every so often to kind of see what's going on in the Pro Tour. And I've got a lot of things that are listed here, so I'm going to just kind of like go down them. The Kage reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, which is technically 2018, but kind of coming in here. So it was the Kage reveal. The characters getting leaked. E Honda, Poison,
that was
Lucia.
Surprisingly, not Capcom's fault on that one.
Yeah, but it's kind of related to the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
You've got something I did notice was that there was, I think, correct me if this is wrong, there was no mid-season balance patch, which I think a lot of people were looking forward to or expecting due to like Rashid and Karen and Akuma kind of beating everybody up, which had kind of been the tradition throughout the previous years.
Yeah, I don't remember, because I know when they dropped the three characters, Poison, Lucia, and Honda, did they have a patch? I feel like they did. I could be wrong about that. Let me look.
Yeah. Well, while you're kind of mentioning that, the list kind of goes on. The list goes on literally because I'm going to keep going on my iPad. Jumping forward all this time, you've got the last chance qualifiers. I think you have some, even though it's a little bit speculative, like rumor stuff, I think that you have some things to say on like what was going on with the production side of the last chance qualifier. And,
yeah.
Oh, no, I thought you've had the patch information.
No, I can't.
Okay. Well, the last thing I just kind of wanted to say before I let you take over the LCQ stuff is just this idea that I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff already. Like I'm not, like I said, it's just at a glance, the network stuff that's going on. But it just seemed like there was a lot about, like, yeah, the tournaments ran and people got points and we got to the end of the year. But it kind of seemed like it was like rough, really rough along the way.
Yeah.
You know, for something that should have been improving throughout the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, would you agree with that in a sense that like it's been a rough year? I mean, you're more dialed into the scene than I have been.
Just barely.
Okay, so but I'm curious. Like when you're looking at it, do you feel like
what makes you think it was rough?
Well, just those things that I mentioned about like the Kage reveal
Yeah.
and the characters getting leaked and the fact that like people seem to complain about the same stuff that they were complaining about. No communication. The net code's awful. We'll jump ahead. Just the Pocky thing that happened at the Capcom Cup and how there were people that, a lot of competitive players that weren't really feeling that part of the event.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think as far as FGC and esports goes, that we're still experimenting and trying new stuff, right? So I don't blame Capcom for trying new things. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we're going to talk about exactly that in just a little bit in regards to next year. But I don't think the season's been bad at all. Like, people are still playing tournaments. Like, everybody's going to be bitching about everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, we were just talking off air. It's like, people on Twitter are going to complain and complain and complain, but it's all about the data. Like, people are still playing. They're still getting good numbers for every tournament.
I guess what's kind of interesting, too, just from my perspective, is this perspective that when I'm away from the scene and then I kind of like dip my head or like poke my head back in to kind of say, okay, hey, what's going on? it's like it's not even that all I see is the negative, but it just kind of seems like there's just a lot of hiccups and problems. So that's why, and I'm still scouring Twitter and Street Fighter Reddit and other places. I'm trying to see like where is a lot of the stuff that is going right, and I know it's out there. I mean, if it was as much of a shamble as like this Capcom Cup would lead you to believe, there's actually an article that I have that's going to be in the description of this podcast. But I think it reads, if I go to the bottom here, is Capcom 2019 as terrible as people make it out to be? And it kind of lists all the different things that had happened with like the LCQ and
depends on
and
who
stuff
you
like
ask.
that. Yeah, and I mean, as far as that question goes specifically, no, right?
Well, it depends, right? Because if you're somebody's sponsor, then yes, it's fucking terrible. Because you have players who like their job is to go do well so that they represent a brand so that people can get eyes on it. And here we have the last chance qualifier not being streamed, losers brackets for the first half of the actual finals not being streamed. And I think it wasn't until like people started mentioning stuff like this that Capcom actually stopped and was like, "Hey, okay, we need to."
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the case, but something that I had believed immediately when I saw this post by Michael Martin was when they said like the logistics. It's a word that was thrown around. We couldn't get the logistics to work out for streaming the last chance qualifier. The first thing that popped into my mind, just from a business standpoint, and I'm not saying this is right, but this is kind of where my mind went first, was there was a contract and an agreement that the Novo, which I think was the name of the place, and Capcom were in agreement to stream on these 2 days. So when they then rolled in on like Thursday, or maybe even Friday morning, or whatever the case was, and said, "Oh, hey, we need to stream this day," I'm pretty sure it was the logistics was, well, that's not in the contract. And because that's not in the contract, even though we have the ability to allow you to stream, we're not going to do it because it's not what we agreed upon, like as a binding contract for this weekend. That's the first thing that came to mind as to why it couldn't happen when Saturday rolled around and suddenly everything was working with no logistics problems.
Well,
okay.
No. So I think it might have been actually not on the venue's fault. I think it could have been the contract that Capcom had with the team streaming.
Okay, so
event.
a little bit more, even though it is still like
it's a little bit nebulous.
You know more about that than I do.
Yeah, it's a little bit nebulous, and I got some of this information off of Twitter, and I'm like 80% sure I can say it's right.
Okay, that's a good percentage.
So the usual crew that runs any Capcom stream and any big stream throughout the year has been Tenno, right? That's Chris Seg, Hanzo Gonzo, Spencer, and all those other guys who are really good at what they do for the FGC.
Right.
And I know that kind of sounded like it was a dig at them. I didn't mean it that way.
No,
I think they're great.
I didn't think of it that way.
Apparently, the crew that they got to stream this time around was... There are rumors that Capcom signed something with ESL, right, the Esports League.
Okay.
And the Esports League then contracted out a company called Paperlight. Paper and Light with a Y.
Okay.
And this crew are the crew that ran the stream this weekend. So I have a feeling that it could have been a contract thing about them streaming on Friday. It could have also just been like they weren't there to stream it on Friday, and that's why they had to.
Yeah.
While I liked the fact that Red Bull put up the dough for people
Twitch
to do IRL stream. Yeah, Twitch and Red Bull put up the dough for people to do IRL streams. There were also so many people that offered Capcom. I know there were there's a dude, he goes by Dude Master, I forget his actual name. Very nice guy. He tweeted out to Capcom and they responded. He tweeted out to Capcom saying, "Hey, I have all of the equipment we need in my storage unit right now. I can be there and do this for free." Capcom said no.
So that's why you think it was more of like an agreement between this other company and Capcom.
So,
okay.
And Red Bull started then giving people IRL backpacks and all this other stuff so that they can then stream the event, which I think is great that people volunteered to do it. I think it's terrible if you're a competitor and now you're worrying about doing an IRL stream of this event.
Did you watch Stupendous? Or did you watch much of the LCQ or any?
I did not.
I tuned in to watch Stupendous' stream because it was kind of the first one that was up. It was entertaining to have people there, but I wasn't watching it at all for the matches because you couldn't really see them anyway. It was just more like, you know,
like all this crazy shit.
Yeah, it's just like there's this like event going on and it's happening at the same time that we're supposed to be watching the Last Chance qualifier.
Yeah.
So I was kind of tuning in more for that, but I don't think I can remember a single thing from it other than Stupendous trying to get somebody stick, running into certain, you know, top players and other people in the scene, and then, you know, oh, I'm sorry, it's too overexposed in the video, I can't fix it. You know? So there was a lot of that, and then I would switch between. I watched a little bit of Yipes' stream, and then I kind of got busy with things throughout the day. But okay, I mean,
yeah, and I mean, look, there was also a lot of like crazy issues with production on Saturday as well. We're not even going to talk about the name switch up, right? Like where they had the players and the names all switched up throughout the first half of Saturday.
Well, something I was thinking about too as I was making all the show notes for this episode was, you know, I don't want to linger too much. It's not even about like I don't want to focus on the negative.
Yeah.
It's just that we could be here all day.
Yep.
Talking about like LCQ and like, oh, they messed up the names or, you know, they should have done this and whatnot. But I kind of wanted to at least touch on those things, and the validation I'm kind of creating in my head is that whether it's Capcom or whatever's happening, I think having like not really a unified voice per se, but if you go to Street Fighter content, whether it's this, whether it's, you know, anyone else out there, and you're listening to their content, if you kind of keep coming across the same complaints, then I feel like for anyone at Capcom or whatever that's trying to find out, okay, well, what, like, you know, we might send out a survey and see like, how did you like the Capcom Cup this year?
Yeah.
But let's say if you don't and you just decide to watch Street Fighter content and find out like what do people feel about it, you'll get this kind of unified idea that like, yes, you know, we didn't like that the LCQ wasn't streamed and so on and so forth. So,
actually, Capcom recently tweeted a response to all of that.
Okay.
Let me pull that up real quick. But while I say that, the reason why this is such a big deal, and I feel like going into this is important, is this is the last tournament of the year, right? Like the Last Chance qualifier is like essentially like the climax of open bracket tournaments for the Capcom year, or for the Capcom Pro Tour year.
Mm-hmm.
So not having that not streamed is such a big letdown for everybody.
It's kind of funny that landscape has changed too, because something that was made as a joke during the podcast, not the podcast, but Stupendous's live stream was like, it's like, I think I heard I read a lot of people saying, oh, yo, it's back in 2009. We're back in 2009, boys. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of, I mean, if you could stream back then, this is kind of what it would look like and feel like, you know? So there's that expectation that's cropped up with having a live stream, you know, as well as the fact that, you know, something that Capcom's mentioned before, and I don't necessarily know if I'll find an article to this, but when we had Roddy here in one of the episodes, we had talked about how Capcom they had to push the viewership angle. And it's not necessarily Street Fighter 5 sucks or, you know, it's not a good game or whatever. It was just, you know, there weren't as many people entering the games, and it's how they can kind of recoup some revenue or get some revenue for the production that they're putting on for the Pro Tour. And they mentioned like, hey, we're going heavy on trying to get more people, at least more eyes on what's going on. That's what SFL is about and whatnot. So to then have something like that happen where all eyes are kind of focused on you, and then it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and I actually have the response here from Capcom.
Okay.
They tweeted out this photo, I'll show it to you, of text with a Capcom Cup at the bottom. And it says, we would like to thank all players, blah, 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 blah. Nothing short of astounding level of competition. The team is aware of the production issues and specifically problems with the matches displayed on the feed. Your voices have been heard, and we'll be working through the off-season to make the necessary changes for 2020. Thank you for your support and the love of Street Fighter. Okay. And something else that I just remembered, Kenny Omega, who then had the big reveal at the end, even like brought up the fact, you know, he poked fun at it.
Yeah.
So like, I think they realized that, like, you know, that was a big uh-oh.
And that was the thing too, is like, you know, regardless of what your line of work is, or maybe not regardless, but in a lot of different lines of work, you don't necessarily need the backlash to know that something is not going according to plan.
Yep.
Like, you just know it. And that happens in my line of work. I'm sure it happens in yours and other people's. It's like, you don't need customers or in the case of Twitch audiences to say this is awful and to post it to Reddit. You know, as it's happening to you, that this is terrible. So, you know, it just happens to be that, you know, you can respond so much quicker when something is live streamed or when you can just throw something out on
Yeah,
social
and
media.
I mean, like at this point, like the live stream is kind of the window to the FGC.
Sure. Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
so-
especially for me, like, I know I've tweeted out a few things about like, oh, I want to try to maybe, if my schedule allows, compete next year. I was very hyped up from the finals. There's a lot of things I don't want to make it seem like I'm going back on certain things, but I'm probably not going to compete next year because it's logistically for me, it would be very, very challenging to kind of have to do things on weekends, and I kind of feel like, regardless of what your aspirations are in the Capcom Pro Tour, I do feel like whether it's Capcom, whether it's the players, whether it's the stream monsters, whatever you want to point the finger at, there is a focus of kind of going all in on this Pro Tour. Like you wouldn't say, oh, this is in my city, I'll just go and like kill a couple hours.
Yeah.
I mean, that does happen every so often that people will just go to something and they do phenomenally well. But I think at this point, especially in my opinion, as Street Fighter V is going to start winding down in 2020, we'll get to that later. I do feel like it's about like going constantly and being there at every tournament and showing your face and trying to do as well as you can to get into those.
Yeah, and I think you're right. But with that said, I do think next year they're trying to change that.
Yeah, with the World Warrior thing.
Yeah, where halfway through the season the points are reset.
Yeah, we'll get to that because I do think that's very cool. So, a couple things I want to hit as we go down because we're going to start talking about the balance patch in a little bit because you've played with that more than I did. The Pocky event.
Yeah, what was the deal with that?
So I don't know all the details because I was at a group party where people were kind of shitting on it as it was going on. But my understanding of the event was that obviously the sponsor was Pocky, and you had the health bars that were yellow. And when you drain somebody's health, so if I'm fighting you, I think the understanding was that if I drop your health down to a certain amount, then I would enter like a Pocky chance mode. So it would say Pocky like beneath the health bar. And then at that point, I needed to do a combo that killed you within that health window range.
Yeah.
And if I did, then the KO would be like Pocky KO and I would win. And the backboard and like the Ring of Destiny and stuff would say Pocky as opposed to like a tournament. So that was the understanding. And it was like Rob TV versus like Kenny Omega. And it just seemed like something that was cool.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like, before we start top 8, hey, let's do this other thing. And if you watch stream chat in any stream, it's a cesspool, dude.
Yeah,
like, it's just
was
like
it
crazy.
just resident sleepers all day?
Yeah, and like, what is this? And I mean, but it's like when you can say that stuff on stream, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, every year they've kind of done something like that. Whether it's the DJ iPad guy, whether it's like
Dude,
the
DJ
DJs
iPad, the
that were,
legend.
huh?
DJ iPad, the legend.
DJ iPad, yeah, he is the legend, dude. But I mean, they've always done something like that, and I think that stuff is kind of useful, not just for the stream and to, like you mentioned earlier, experiment with certain things. And try out new things. But I also think it's cool just for like the people that are there.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing too. We were going towards the route of having musical performances
Okay.
in tournaments, and I'm glad we're steering away from it. Like, for example, you just mentioned last year they had Del the Funky Homo Sapien and the two scratching turntable artists.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called, what their professional titles are, which are cool and all. And like, you could even point to the Game Awards where they had Green Day play, but it's like, who cares?
Careful on that tab.
Sorry, but my point is, who cares, right? Like, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, dope. I'm here to watch Street Fighter. Beat it, kid.
Okay. So that was something I kind of want to briefly hang on. Then is that one of the reasons I think I like that stuff is because if it wasn't there, then it kind of is just another tournament. Now it's the biggest tournament, but it's just another one.
Yeah, that's why I like the Pocky stuff. Like,
Okay.
I didn't get to see it up right after this. I'm gonna go try and watch it.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that stuff is kind of, and if you wanted to like take a break, like we would, like when I was at the party, we kind of watched a little bit, but more at that point we were kind of talking about other stuff and like, oh man, who we think is going to win. So I think having that break is kind of useful.
And here's something else to that. You remember when we used to have like the 3v3 team tournaments in the FGC for tournaments?
You mean like the day before a tournament would kick off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I miss those. I think those are fun.
Do they not still happen? Like Canada versus US or something? Like
They only do it like
Canada
very
Cup?
so often.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So I was on my phone at the very beginning of this podcast trying to sign up for the online tournament beta. There is a 3v3 online tournament.
Oh,
For that tournament beta mode.
okay.
So I think they are including 3v3 tournaments in this online beta to possibly include 3v3 tournaments.
Well, they also do. I mean, isn't that how the Street Fighter League is more or less run? It's 3v3, right?
Yeah, Street Fighter League is 3v3. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, and then they create like a whole mode, like team.
I don't think they ever used it in Street Fighter League. That's
no, but I think that was kind of. But I saw them use that on like Capcom.
Yeah, there is a team
the
battle.
Fighters thing. Like I've like the Capcom Fighters channel had like people come in.
Yeah, there is a team battle mode, but I don't think you can play it online at all. It's just not fine.
Okay. Well.
But with that said, I think, and this is just pure speculation at this point, I think we're going to see the return of 3v3s.
Okay. So we have one last negative thing that we have to go over, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to getting through it because then we can kind of talk about some other stuff.
Yeah.
The tournament setups, you know, at first I didn't really think there was that big of an issue when I was watching the tournament, but obviously it's, you know, for the sake of this podcast, this is Monday that we're recording this.
Yeah.
So after having kind of looked at what was going on, it did seem like this was happening primarily with player 2's side.
Yep.
I guess the
there
lag
were stats.
and, you know, yeah. So that is unfortunate. And at first, not that like I had an opposite opinion anyway, but I think that at first I was just thinking like maybe something's running in the background. Like why would these things be connected to the internet? And then it kind of became, no, there's no reason it would be connected to the internet. It must be something that's like the way the setup is connected to the other console.
That's all it is. And I can tell you exactly what it was without even looking at it.
Okay.
Whatever capture card they were using, they were probably running a splitter from the capture card to one of the monitors.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, I don't remember what kind of monitors they were using, but generally, when we were using Zowie, though I don't know if Zowie's still with us at this point. So I don't know if you knew what happened at Celtic Throwdown, where a couple days before the tournament, Zowie, who was a sponsor of the tournament, just like backed out and was like, "Hey, we're not going to give you monitors. Bye."
Okay.
And then there was like this huge backlash, and then and Asus even like came up and was like, "Hey, you need something?"
Okay.
But I think at the end of that backlash, Zowie was like, "Okay, never mind. Here's your monitors."
That's weird.
Yeah. It was very bizarre.
Okay.
So that's why I said I don't know if Zowie's still with the FGC anymore. But those Zowie BenQ monitors, they have an HDMI out. So my thought is they have this HDMI out going from the player 1 monitor into a capture card, into a splitter to go into the other monitor, and then the other side of the splitter goes back into the production end of things so that they can stream it. And this comes with an experience of the crew running it, I am assuming, just because if they have run events like this in the past, where they were running different games other than fighting games where, you know, a frame or two of lag doesn't really matter, I genuinely think that's what happened. It was like they didn't think about the delay of going through a capture card. And there is a delay going through just about every capture card.
Sure, yeah.
Especially when you have it from one monitor to another.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I mean, I felt like it had to have been something like that. I mean, there was some concerns about ventilation going on with the consoles. And I mean, that could be the case, but I felt like maybe not because, I mean, who doesn't run their PlayStation 4, regardless, Pro or not, for hours on end and, you know, playing on their own. So, but yeah.
And if that was the issue, then it would have been with both players, not just one side.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But it was, and I think they did try to address that because I think it was Angry Bird.
Yeah, that just stopped playing.
Yeah, I got angry.
Yeah.
And
he was the bird of anger.
he's Angry Bird, and yeah, he definitely brought it up. And I think the next day they were resetting the consoles, which resulted in more breaks. But the issue, I guess, was still going on. And you know, it's funny because I think I was watching another video. I forget exactly who it was from, but somebody had a clip where it showed Punk doing like crouch and jab, and then nothing.
Yep.
And then he just gets bopped, like he just gets hit, like he's just not blocking or anything. And I noticed that stuff kind of in the moment, but I was so hyped up from the tournament that I like turned to the person next to me. I'm just like, he just dropped it. Can you believe it? And it's like, well, maybe, you know, it wasn't that he dropped it. It was that like he's playing a different video game out there.
Yep.
He's playing Street Fighter 2, and then Item's over here playing Street Fighter 5. But I don't want to take anything away from Item.
Yeah, Item, I'm so happy that he won.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for
Man,
that
Punk
guy.
was looking mad clean. We'll jump into that for a little bit. Like some of I don't want to go through. I know there's going to be other channels that are going to do a much better breakdown of like the different matches. But Tokido Daigo, Idom versus Phenom, Idom versus Punk in winners finals, and then he got fucking ran over.
Yeah.
And
Was
then
Punk on player one side during winners finals?
I'm afraid to look. I think he was. Yeah, I know. But but yeah, it was. I still thought the matches were still super good. All of them. They were coming down to that. I mean, something I've already heard people say that like last game, last round, all the time. You know, I was trying to clean up around my place and like move stuff around, and I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, man, I gotta keep doing stuff, but like these matches they're too good. So I was biased too. Something that I always like get I wouldn't say nervous about, but I feel like as tame. I don't know if it was you or somebody else that would disagree with me on this, but as tame as like the fighting game players have kind of become as we've all gotten a little bit older, it's like it almost seems strange to be biased. Where it's like I want this player to win. It's like no, you should be the person that just kind of wants like good matches. You shouldn't be like for one country or one player or whatever. You should just respect everybody. And you see that a lot with commentators where they try almost not to be biased.
Yeah.
Especially the UK guys like F Ward and Logan Sama. When like someone from the UK is playing, they want to be like rooting for that person, but if it's someone else, you just want to like have a neutral opinion.
Yeah.
Not me. When I'm watching the US play, I'm like crush them.
Yeah.
I'm like every other region, crush them. So when I was at my party watching, when I was thinking to myself, if Idom beats Phenom, we win the tournament.
Yep.
That was exactly what I was thinking in that moment. I wasn't thinking about Punk versus Idom. I was thinking if Phenom loses, USA wins the Capcom.
Do you
Cup.
know why I know you act like this? Or like why you think that way, rather?
Why?
When we were at Capcom Cup 2016,
you
popped off when Ricky Ortiz and Du were in grand finals.
When it became a grand finals, I was on my feet in 2016. I was just like, we won! And it was the first Street Fighter V. Like I was like, I got mad hype. So I was rooting the entire time, and then I became like, I switched to being like huge or rooting for Idom during the last a couple sets because it just. Karin was so dominating, and Punk using that character is such a dominating character. It's like you can't make a single mistake, and he's gonna crush you. So to watch this guy like fight his heart out and just like bring it back, I kept turning to the person next to me, and I was just like, "This is insane. What is happening right now?"
Yeah, dude. You know what my favorite part of it is? I'm not sure if this is completely true, but I think Idom is like one of the few people that were not sponsored that were even in top 8.
Well, the commentators I think kept saying that.
Yeah, he was the one unsponsored person, and he took home the biggest prize. That means you don't have to give it to nobody but himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how things
I don't know how sponsored contracts work, but I know with the bigger esports out there, usually whoever the team is takes a cut.
Wow.
But, they have like, $8 million
and the running
or whatever
joke
the fuck.
with Idom too about the socks. Like during his interview.
Oh, yeah,
he said like I was going to buy socks if I win the tournament, and it was just like get your socks, boy.
Gonna buy $250,000 worth of socks.
That was cool. I think there was some. I mean, this isn't like a match thing. I thought this was like a great highlight. Well, let me think if I want to actually go here. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna tiptoe. So it was, we know about Infectious and how he like keeps the emotions contained. He said in his interview, and when he's on screen, the chat is just all robots, right? Because he's like, straight faced. And I think I saw something that made me laugh super hard in the Twitch chat where I was watching it and they showed his interview and he's like talking about why he keeps his emotion contained and him as a player. And somebody put the robot and then they said right next to it they said it talks. And I was like, yo, that made me laugh out loud. I was like, okay, that's why I have to watch stuff with Twitch chat, man. Yeah, I have to watch, even though they are like the underbelly. I have to watch it. Otherwise, it's just like I'll be watching like it's kind of entertaining. Click on the gear icon, put on the Twitch chat, and I'm like, yo, here we go. It's gonna be way more entertaining all of a sudden. So
that's why I love restreams. Like watching a tournament, like even a Tekken tournament with Eris or like something with Flo, I think that shit's
Eris
hilarious.
is the master of like because it's like watching a really cool stream, but then the person running the stream is like, well, get on you. Like,
Yep.
they'll shoot you. So, all right. So something that I wanted to, obviously we're jumping into right now is a little bit of the season 5 balance update. I thought for sure that I'd have more time to look over the notes and kind of see what was going on Twitter and whatnot, and even play, because it's Monday, so I would have had a chance to play. I didn't. So I really kind of looked at Ryu, and I kind of glanced at a lot of the characters. And to be completely biased, because I haven't played this game for a year, the characters that I focused on were characters that either I struggled with or I felt Ryu struggled with. And I don't know if you would agree just yet, because I know I'm going to let you talk about some of the characters, but I feel like at a glance it seems fine. It seems like nobody got like stupid that I noticed, like both on the negative side as far as nerfs and on the buff side.
Well,
right?
I mean, people keep complaining about G, and G got buffed.
Okay, and you know it's so funny, since I haven't played in so long, I don't know a single thing about G and how he fights. So
he's crazy. He's basically Q.
Okay.
Except he has the presidential levels where it's almost like a Guilty Gear mechanic at this point. So where she is doing work, where if he powers up, he can power up his presidentiality level. I think it's called. It's like something presidential.
No, that sounds about right.
It powers up to level 1. All his stuff, like most of his special moves, hit harder and have more hits done. If it powers up to level 2, everything is his dash punch gets like a wall bounce that you can combo off of, and if it's up to level 3, everything gets fucking ridiculous.
Okay, so he got buffed.
Yeah, they buffed some stuff from him. His second V skill is Q's taunt.
Okay, I think I did see that. He like has his arms up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So what about Karine? Like, I mean, that's your main.
So
Let's talk about that one first.
I am kind of sad because they nerfed to crouch medium kick.
Okay.
So it's easier to whiff punish, and it's slower. Like, a lot.
Wait, all right. You do this thing where sometimes it's like it's not that bad of a nerf, and you'll like, and you're like, oh no, the world's ending. Is it really that bad?
It is. It's
About to pull up these patch notes.
You can,
Okay.
but like I wish I could show video of this, because like I remember when I was just figuring out the character, I would sit and press crouching medium kick so I can get the timing of whiffing it.
Okay.
This is fucking rough now. It feels like it stays out there as long as like Ryu's sweep. That's me exaggerating.
Okay.
But it feels like it stays out there forever. Like as Valle once said, like you can throw a quinceañera on her leg before she retreats back to normal.
You know, and it's funny that you say that too, because I felt like when Ryu got that change from season 1 to season 2, remember we were at Capcom Cup?
Yeah, and you were
like,
like,
I would whip like a stand hard kick, and I was just like, this feels like 1,000 frames slower. And then it's like, oh, it's only 2. And I'm like, oh, it feels like forever, you know? So it could be a situation like that too.
But with that said, like her timings are just a little bit different, so it'll be fine.
I saw that video on Twitter like right after the tournament came out, which I thought was funny just because it's, you know, after, you know, what was going on with Punk throughout the year. And it was Karine throwing somebody in the corner.
Oh, God.
And then she separates super far away, and like the camera pans, and everybody's just like, yay! Got their hands in the air.
That's another thing, too, that I'm not a fan of. But you know what? Whatever.
I mean, that happened to Ken last year, right?
Yeah,
or
well,
the year
here's
before
the thing. Like, I don't understand why they did that. Because, like, the whole thing, the whole reason why I'm assuming they did that is because people are worried about throw loops.
Sure.
But she doesn't have throw loops. All you have to do is click a jab.
You know, what I'm going to say.
I could be completely wrong, but that's how I feel about it.
What I'm going to say next is kind of very indicative of the fact that I don't play the game.
Okay.
I feel like I'm like weirdly like almost like saying that like it's funny.
Okay.
But
just say it.
I was going to say that like I feel like whether it's a buff or a nerf, Capcom is very aware of what's going on. When we say Capcom, we mean like the battle designer or whoever.
Yeah.
Because, you know, something that's happened throughout the years, whether it's Street Fighter 4 or 5, is like, oh, why would they make that change? They don't know what they're doing. Or, what? No, they should have nerfed this instead. And it's like, they got to be, they're definitely watching the tournaments. And they're watching it, and they're seeing stuff, and we're seeing stuff. So we see something, and we're like, man, M. Bison with the credit card swipe, this is stupid. Why can he do this? Yeah. And then, you know, he does the orb or whatever, and however it works. And he's doing stuff, and then people are like, oh, the plus frames. And then Capcom next season, they kind of go like this. They're like, make that better. And it's like, why would you make it better? And it's like, well, they can see something about that character that makes him not how they want or not how they intend for him to play.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that it's entirely that they're nerfing stuff because people are complaining or buffing.
No. Yeah.
I think that they're just watching the game and being like, that's garbage. It shouldn't work like that, or we're tired of it working like that, or this character should do this now.
I mean, if I can be completely honest, I don't think Karen's nerf to her crouching medium kick is unwarranted. I just don't.
Did you think it reached too far? Or was it that
No, it was just too fast for a crouching medium kick with how much of a reward you get off of it.
How fast was it? 6 frames?
It was something like that, yeah.
Because that's Ryu's. I think Ryu's is 6. But you said reward too, so it's like Ryu's getting like EX Hadouken.
Yeah. And her stun overall got reduced.
I did see that.
Yeah, I have the patch notes up now.
Okay,
stun of each special move has been reduced, and the separation distance of the forward throw in the corner has been increased by like a mile. By making this change, it maintains the character's defining close to mid-range fighting style while increasing the frequency of risk versus reward situations. Now, the other thing too is these patch notes are very general. It's not like the patch notes we're used to getting, where it's like X frames now X frames or Y frames rather. Crouching medium kick has a long range with potential for big returns. So its motion during recovery and hurt box.
I think there is a more descriptive one.
Is there?
That was on game.capcom. Like where it does have the numbers.
Oh, this is Capcom Unity.
Okay. No, I think
if there is, then we'll look at that later.
Well, I was going to say we can look at that later. Well, cuz something that I know as far as talking about some Ryu changes real quick from the more detailed one is crouching medium kick. So I'm going to point out some highlights. Oh, it's just notes.
Yeah, it's all right.
So for me, the things that I kind of notice from Ryu's changes is crouching medium kick reaches slightly further. I don't think it's as big of a deal as I saw people.
It reaches to the end of his leg.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's as big of a deal. I think what is a big deal for him though is that it's -1 on block instead of -3. So therefore, he can kind of like harass you with it more as opposed to like, well, I'm -3, and if I'm close, then I kind of have to use the Hadouken.
Yeah.
So there's that, which I thought was really good. V meter doesn't drain at all
For
in
V-Trigger
1.
Yeah.
I don't know, without playing and testing it a little bit more, I don't know if I'm as excited for that as I think other Ryu players are because of the fact that it drains faster.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I think that would have been a nice thing to have without the drain. And I'm curious if that's just me thinking it would be too good, because his V-Trigger 1 drained faster than most characters with him just standing there, without using Hadoukens or the uppercut, right? The Shoryuken. So now it drains faster, but then it doesn't, deplete any for the special moves. I'm thinking like, I don't know. I mean, like,
Well, you used to be able to get 2 Shoryus.
is it only 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Woof.
If I remember correctly. I also use V-Trigger 2 a lot, so I don't use V-Trigger 1.
I thought V-Trigger 1 was the future. Or I'm sorry, V-Trigger 2 was the future. Just because of its speed, how slow it drained.
Yeah.
And for when I get to use this twice.
And that's the kind of game so earlier today when I was playing, I was actually struggling reacting to Bison's new V skill, where he teleports behind you and gives you a knee. right to the ass.
Have one of these for your trouble.
Yeah. And I was having issues reacting to it, and I was playing with V skill 2, so I couldn't just parry it. So once I got V trigger 2, I just started doing it, and the dude did not know to stop. So he just kept doing it. I kept parrying it. It was dope.
That was something I was thinking about, and this is so easy that I don't think this would be viable. But my thought initially went to if you picked like V skill, I guess 1 or 2, but preferably 2, and then you had V trigger 2. In theory, I'd be thinking Ryu. It's not that he'd be really good, but I think like you'd be almost afraid to attack him.
Yep.
Because he'd have like these moments of like, well, if you guess wrong and I read you correctly, you're gonna lose. You're gonna take a lot of damage. Yeah. So I feel like it'd almost be like if he's getting up. I mean, his frames would have to be better. Like he'd have to have like his parry V skill 1 would have to be like 1 frame faster, and his V skill, I think his V trigger 2 also starts up in 2 frames.
Does it?
So I think I mean it's been a long time, but I feel like it does. And if it does, you kind of have to like respect him. If you're not hitting with a meaty, you kind of have to be like, he could just do it.
Yep.
So
yeah, no. Look, I'm a fan of V Trigger 2. We were talking about this offline. His V skill 2. Look, I like it. I really do. I'm trying to make it work, but goddamn, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing a little bit with it, and I don't think it's as good as it is when you think about it.
Yeah.
And would you agree that it's the startup? I think it starts up
So-
just too slow for what he should be trying to do with it.
Yeah, it's the startup and the parry window. I think the parry window's too tight.
See, I feel like it's a little wide.
No, and here's why. Like I think the parry window starts when when his back is to the screen, right?
Yeah.
It's such a narrow gap to me, I think, especially given the gigantic amount of startup that you can't like react to something. It has to be like
You have to read it.
actual fucking read.
Yeah.
Sorry for the cursing.
No, it's fine.
I think that might be the first F-bomb I'll drop today.
That'll be the second one because I did one too. I try not to.
Well, I mean,
but...
I personally.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, actually, I streamed today. I probably. Yeah, but anyway. No. I think given the startup how it is, that window is way too narrow. Right.
Yeah.
Like it would be amazing if while the startup was happening, until he stepped forward, would be the window.
See, I thought that would. That's what I thought it was, and then as I was getting like counter hit just in training with trying it, I was thinking that would be a little too good, on the way in. But it's like I feel like just we talked a little bit about homogenization offline too, but I feel like something that's so challenging with Street Fighter and designing some of these new moves or changing the existing ones is like you can tell that they're trying to like get something to work.
Yeah.
Like V Trigger 2 was a great idea. It's like because remember one of the problems with V skill 1 was that if somebody jumped over Ryu and like tried to cross him up, he could V skill it, but then he couldn't really do anything to you.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh well, if you jump over him, then you'll just get sucked to the front. So it's like them trying to be like, well, we want him to be able to do something to you when you try to cross him up.
Yeah.
And I think V skill 2 is another example of that where it's like something I tested, and this is completely unviable. No one should do this. But something I tested is you can use it on a light move. Like if you did like light attack, like crouching light kick, like when he parries it or whatever, if he gets that, he'll hit you before the move can retract because he freezes the screen and then hits you. So it's very clear that like if something makes contact with him, he will hit you.
Yeah, I think.
So-
Well, the other thing too is I think the reward of getting the hit is not enough.
Yeah,
I don't think it does any damage worth.
I think it's 120. I think it's 60 for the first hit. Bam.
Yeah.
And then the elbow is another. That is when I found out that it was, and it doesn't build that much V meter.
Nope. And as we were talking offline, if the range is too far, like he can actually whiff the follow up, even if you do get the parry. So I was doing this with Ryu's own crouch medium kick, and if you get the very tippy top range of it, he doesn't land the follow up. So imagine doing that with like Karen's standing medium kick that reaches half the fucking world. Second F-bomb.
Yeah.
Reaches half the world, or an Abigail or a Zangief Fierce that again reaches the entire world. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, it's just gonna whiff, and then your reward for getting this right read at this point is you getting punished.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes because, it's -4 on block. It was something that I mentioned as well is that you can't really space it correctly. I thought you might be able to do that, but he steps too far
Yeah,
into
well,
you.
even -4 on block I think is good.
Oh man, I'm getting shades of like M Bison doing like stand light kick like Orb, and being like checked you, haha. But I looked at a few other characters. I noticed that Rashid, I used to call it Rashid hands. It's like an old thing they used to say where you just like stand heavy punch. He's like,
Oh yeah, hello hands.
Yeah. He apparently he's got some more back recovery, or his back hurt box is like. That's another example that I was talking about where like it seems like they're like he clearly leans forward to do this attack.
Yeah.
Right. It makes more sense that he would avoid attacks by doing that just physically.
Yeah.
But it's like because he can get away with it, they're like, well, you're back now. It's like you're a hunchback now.
Yeah.
Like now you have this huge hump on your back that people are going to be able to hit because we've designed this move in a way to where he leans forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other things you want to say about Karen?
Oh yeah, they finally fixed her jump-ins.
Yeah, I noticed that they reduced her hurt box when she's jumping in, right?
So she was one of the characters that Bison and Guile would be able to just do a crouching jab to anti-air with.
That was so goofy to look at, man.
It was even worse to experience.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Like, you're about to cross this guy up. Oh, crouching jab, never mind.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, they fixed just on her hard buttons, which I don't know is gonna hurt or help much, but at least they're looking at it. Yeah, and they changed the animation for her crouching medium kick. to help show that it takes longer.
Did you change the
Yeah,
animation?
its motion during recovery and hurtbox have been adjusted accordingly.
Oh.
Yeah, it takes
Okay.
forever. Well, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whiffing is far more punishable.
I think Rashid got the similar treatment with his
medium?
stand heavy punch.
Oh, standing heavy punch?
Oh, maybe you're right.
I know
But
crouching medium kick, or medium punch rather.
maybe I'm thinking in Bison. I think Bison got that for his stand hard punch.
Oh no, Rashid, his crouching medium punch is modified so that it's easier to execute combos that chain off of light whirlwind and wing stroke. By the way, his V skill 2 is ridiculous.
It does look pretty good.
Literally, he just jumps and then it's like boop, and just goes horizontal in the air for a little bit.
Yeah, I think I saw something on Twitter about him like jumping over somebody and like going backwards the way he came. And you're thinking like, oh, if this could get this
Dude,
could
I
get weird.
was playing a Zeku earlier today, and he was trying to use the V skill 2s, and like as cool as they are, they're not viable at all.
V skill 2 for who?
Zeku.
Okay.
Because Zeku's V skill 2 are the strider animals. Like he has the eagle, he has the ferret. What was the other one? Is there a third one? No, I think it might just be the eagle and the ferret. But the eagle drops a thing of dynamite.
Okay.
And then like when it explodes, like it hurts like hell to get hit by it. But like he'll literally do the stance, and if he gets hit with something, like the animal just disappears.
Oh, you know, it's funny. Something that I thought was going to be the case with V skill 2 and it didn't happen. And again, I'm no designer, but I still think it was weird that you can get like counter hit. Like it almost seems like V skills should be used constantly. I know I've said this. I feel like I've said this till I'm blue in the face. That like I wanted for this game for people to be using their V skills like any other special move, but that you didn't build V meter when you got hit. So it was less of a. So then obviously you would build more when you did like land these moves, and I feel like in the little bit that I've seen of people use their V skills, it almost just seems like it's another V skill as opposed to like here's how I can incorporate this into my game.
Yeah.
And honestly, the character I thought had a really good V skill just because it worked almost perfectly like I wanted, and it was Nikali, and it was the one where he does it in the combo, where it's like he does like a target combo. I think it's like stand medium kick, stand heavy punch or something like that. He has like a target combo, and he ends with the ground pound.
Yeah, it's standing medium kick, standing medium punch, standing hard kick.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But he did that, and I was thinking like, oh, this is perfect because even though you can counter hit him on this move, it doesn't matter because the way he should be using it is either from a distance or in a combo. But then you had characters like Ryu, then you had characters like Urien that don't. Like they just have to do it and hope that you're like not catching them with their pants down, And then if you do, it's like, oh, here's your counter hit for your troubles. So
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other V skills that I looked at. Zangief. So I have a buddy who was at the event trying out Zangief's new V skill with Kichipamu and Itazan.
Okay.
And they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, you're not gonna figure it out like right there though.
I also tried to mess with Karen's V skill too a little bit.
What is it?
It's basically Chun's back fierce. Just a double palm, just boop.
Okay.
Sorry for slamming the phone on the table. But I couldn't figure it out either. I have to see other people trying to do it. Fong has a parry.
I was making a joke that like every character's V skill too is either a power up or a parry.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's like I was watching like the live stream, the after party. It's like this powers up Dalsim's Yoga Fire, and it's like this powers up this character's next move. And I'm like, okay, this character slips past the opponent, and like Armika has some sort of parry, and I was just like, did they just give everybody a parry or a power up? Yeah. But I guess like in the grand scheme of the game now, like what else are you gonna get? Like if it's not a power up to one of your existing moves, and it doesn't parry or dodge, like what else are you gonna do?
I have not seen this yet, but I think, and this is just my prediction, if Alex's V skill 2 works the way I think it will, I think Alex is about to get really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, because his new V skill lets him...
Oh, yeah, the chaining into the different
What I want to see is full screen stun gun headbutt where he goes flying all over the screen. Person goes, hey, that's a stun gun headbutt, jumps, he lands, and then cancels it into air knee.
Question... Can he? So he can do that off of a whiff move too?
I don't know. That's what I hope.
I think that would be stupid. I
that would
I
be
don't
amazing.
know.
He needs it.
I don't know if he needs
He
it, but
needs
it would look so
He
goofy.
really needs it.
Okay, I mean maybe he can do that.
That would be sick. It would basically be like what Mena's setup is with Birdie.
Man, that's
With
the chain.
no with
the dive.
dolphin dive into
critical art?
super. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Like, I jumped over it. Great. Oh.
So I heard this on Twitter before I saw the notes, but the fact that Akuma can't V-trigger cancel off of a whiffed Hadouken anymore. That was something that like top players and like people that are more ingrained in the scene, they always say like, why the hell can he do that? Like when it's not on hit, like he just does it. And it's so funny because obviously one of the premier Akuma players, Takedo and maybe NL, I guess would be like two that stand out. They do it. And I don't know if I ever really thought about it because it's like Akuma's always been the Shoto that can kind of do everything that the other Shotos wish that they could do.
Yeah.
And when I saw him do that, I was like, yeah, Akuma doing Akuma things. But then, like, as the season went on, I saw him do it in ways that was just like a just do it.
Yep.
Where he's just like, you know what? You're across the screen. Hadouken, V-trigger activate, and he just, like, trots his way on in. And you're like, he just did it? Like, he just, like, with no regard for anything. You know, it's like, whether it hits or not, like, okay. But the fact that he, I guess, can't do that anymore, we'll see. You know, Akuma's so damn good that he's good in another video game. You know, so
he
it's
won
like,
the Tekken World Tour, yeah.
So it's like he's just a problem. Every time he's in a game, I think even when Street Fighter Cross Tekken, he got announced. I was just like, oh damn it! I was like man, this game was great. Now it's gonna be, now we have this top tier character. He isn't even out yet.
They gave Guile a air sonic boom.
So not that I hope that anybody will use this against me because it's just like it's not that big of a deal, and I don't know how long I'm going to play Street Fighter. This version of Guile, specifically in Street Fighter V, and probably because I played Yang in the last game, but this version of Guile, I hate that matchup. Guile versus Ryu. It's almost just fighting like a better version of like a better designed character.
Yep.
It's like, what was that meme of like the old versus the new? But like, and so when I was watching the trailer and I saw Guile do the air sonic boom, I was just like, what? Like, of course, like they would give him something stupid.
Hot diggity.
Couldn't you couldn't give him a parry? or like some sort of power up.
Although I will say this. I was playing against a guy earlier today. I don't know if he was just using it wrong, but if you block it standing, he's negative.
The jumping Sonic?
If you block it standing, he's negative.
Okay.
If you block it crouching, he's plus.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
How negative are we talking? I mean, it's a V skill, so it should be like, what, -2, -4?
Yeah, I don't know if it's safe or not, just because the person I was playing kept trying to hit a button afterwards, and I would always get the counter hit. Mm-hmm. But he's negative when he lands. With that said, though, have you seen some of the desk combo videos that he's been doing?
I have not seen any desk combo videos. I'll have to watch them after this.
That and V-Trigger 1 Guile with the mini booms, you can you can throw a mini boom, do jumping boom.
Oh, I did see one actually.
Like you could do like these crazy loops.
Kind
of nuts.
We have two more topics we're going to focus on. One, obviously, I mean, there's not much because this character's not out yet, which is Seth. Mm-hmm. When I was at this party, I was talking to somebody and I said, I think the next character is going to be Seth.
Yeah, I said that months ago.
I think a lot of people have thought that because of the arcade mode and the fact that he's like the only Street Fighter boss that wasn't there.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about that at all.
That's what I thought. I was just like, well, Gil is. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Just when Arcade Edition launched, I was like, oh, they might reveal Seth at one point. And when they showed this guy I was sitting next to, was like, there's no way they're going to do Seth. Mm-hmm. And then when they showed him, I was like, oh, it's Seth. And I thought initially that it was just the
normal Seth,
the female Seth. That's what I thought. Well, when I showed it, because it showed the woman. Well, like you see the stomach,
yeah. And
then when like she lifts up her head up, I was just like, oh, it's female Seth. That's cool. And then it like changed to the guy Seth, and I didn't know that there was a male voice. Mm-hmm. So at first I was just like, they got two voice actors to do the same lines. I was like, that's crazy cool. And they didn't do that. They just have the male voice actor.
Here's how I knew it was going to be Seth. They announced Gil, and then they announced that the last character was going to come out in February. Right. So
Gil's birthday.
What?
So that's Seth's birthday.
No. So Gil's in Street Fighter Third Strike, Street Fighter 3.
3, yeah.
Chronologically, what's 2 Street Fighters before that in the world of Street Fighter?
You're confusing me. I don't know.
So in the Street Fighter world, what are 2 Street Fighter games before Street Fighter 3?
In the Street Fighter world?
Yeah. In the timeline.
In the timeline, it would be Street Fighter 5 and then 4.
Yeah.
In the timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
February, second month. 2 games back.
Okay.
Boss is Seth.
Man, that's way more complicated. I was just thinking it was Seth because I was just like, they have an arcade mode and they have them done by each game, like Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 1, and Street Fighter 2. And then like Bison's the boss in Street Fighter 2 and Sagat's the boss in Street Fighter 1. And when I got to 4, I was just like, I wonder if they added Seth. But I was like, I don't think they're going to add him because that'd be like weird if he's like the last character. But
he looks super interesting though.
He looks crazy.
Yeah. So people were noticing that he has Makoto's up punch.
I heard somebody say that, but like, I don't know.
Well, he has Makoto's up punch, and then he has although like he used to do this, and I don't think this is a clue to characters being added, just because like Capcom has said they're not going to add more characters, just because they're not going to change the game much because of the Olympics thing. And also, I'm fairly certain that Seth in Street Fighter 4 had some Urian stuff.
Kind of, because he had like a tackle, but it was kind of an able tackle. But the animation for it looked identical to Urian's. Yeah.
So people were also mentioning that his uppercut looked like Oro's.
Okay.
But he's always had that uppercut where he twirls around.
Yeah, he's always had that.
Yeah.
In Street Fighter 4.
So I don't know. People are
but his crouching heavy kick, his sweep in Street Fighter 4 was like frame exactly what Urian's was. And I remember, like, for me, I'm kind of a lore person, but, you know, I'm, like, this close to being, like, I give up. But, like, when you look at those kind of things, it's like like lore stuff, like when Abel, as an example, when Abel would do his Ultra 1, when he reels back and the camera focuses on him, the white part of his eye just goes black.
Yeah.
And the black part turns yellow. And I was like, yo, because he's like a clone. They did nothing with that. And so I was just like, okay, like Nikali, like we thought there was gonna be something with him, turned into a sheep and turned into a mud monster.
It's just the mud.
Capcom is the king at like writing something. It's like what I described. It's like they wrote like a story and then they just handed it to the next person and went like, do you know anything about like Devil May Cry? And they go, no, perfect. Write the story like from here. And it's just like, that's just how they've always written like that.
Yeah.
For all of their video games.
Yeah,
so.
but with that said though, if Seth is going to be created with the same mentality that they created Gil, Seth is going to be dope. Because I played Gil today. Gil's fun as hell.
He's cool.
He's super fun. I need to put it like, and this is the first time I felt like this. I feel like I need to put in a ton of time to figure out how to actually play Gil.
That is a character I will not be playing then.
Yeah, just because he has the whole retribution mechanic
system. Yeah.
And it's. They put so much thought into Gil because the way you play Gil is exactly the way Gil looks. It's symmetrical.
Red and blue? Oh, okay.
No, it's very symmetrical where all of the forward, like quarter circle forward motion stuff is fire. Quarter circle back is all ice.
Ice being slow, more defensive. Fire being more aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, for example, his fireball, quarter circle forward, fireball. Quarter circle back, ice fireball. His tackle, quarter circle forward, fire tackle, quarter circle back.
Do you remember, like, I don't know if you remember this. I was trying to find this as, like, a clip to put on Twitter, but it was when all three of us were here talking about possibly Urian being added to the game. Mm-hmm. This was, like, a long time ago. And I made a joke where I said, like, they should have Urian in the Gil outfit and then Gil in the game wearing his normal outfit. And Roddy was like, no.
Ta-da!
And when they announced Gil, I was like, yo, it's real.
Well, it is super weird that they gave Urian a Gil outfit.
Well, that almost means that, like,
they probably weren't.
Yeah, they weren't intending to add him. And then, after a while.
Scary how we were
in
the page there. We've been hanging out too much, even though we haven't.
Where are the Yang brothers? The Lee brothers. Yin and Yang. Man, we got through a whole Street Fighter, like generation and we didn't get them, you know, like
I thought they were going to be in
because it's like I feel like it's like those characters they're almost like hype beasts. It's like when you know they come to play, it's going to be a hard matchup. Yeah. Either one of them, you know. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we'll see what happens after the Olympics.
Okay, so speaking of the Olympics, I want to briefly maybe not briefly, but talk about the Capcom 20 details. I got a ton of bulleted points under here, or at least a handful. We know Capcom Pro Tour 2020. 40 players are going to qualify for the Capcom Cup, as opposed to the 32. Yep. It'd be 31, and then the last chance qualifier. 16 players are going to qualify from 2 seasons, separated by, and then if I read this correctly, it said the Game Over event. I thought the separation was going to be Evo, but it seemed like it said on the website Game Over.
Yeah, I think.
So I wonder if that's just the event that's going to divide the two.
I think so. I have to. what kind of sucks is I wish I could have the trailer in front of me, but I'm not going to pull it up on my phone and play it, even though I could. Now that I think about it,
I've got. I think I can pull up the website real quick.
But yeah, no, I do think it's interesting, and it leads back to what we were talking about, how it feels like Capcom Pro Tour, you have to go all in, or it doesn't matter what you do.
If you want to read this over a little bit, because I've got my phone with me, this is I guess maybe one of the last articles that Michael Martin published, and it kind of talks about, if you can scroll down, it talks about, like, gives you a screenshot of how they'll break down and everything like that, as opposed to just watching the trailer.
Yeah.
It shows the premiere events, and I can pull my notes up on my phone. But
okay, so they do still have a last chance qualifier. Good. They have one player, so IDOM's going to be in it from 2019.
Yeah.
The World Warrior Challenge. So compete in your regional league for a slot. I think this is what they're going to use the online tournament mode for. And this is 22 players getting through this.
If you read a little bit closer, it did say kind of going to your local events. So I don't know if that one's going to be really online.
Maybe they're taking a page out of the Tekken Dojo events, where you sign up for a local. Although the fact that this many players get into it,
that's a lot.
Not being into the in spite of the global leaderboard.
Because the global leaderboards, and we're going to learn more about this as it goes, because all this is just us talking about it. But the global leaderboard seems to be like the way it works now, where it's like, oh, if I go to Combo Breaker, which is a premier, or if I go to this tournament, which is a premier, NorCal Regionals or something, and I win that, I'm going to get X amount of points, and that's going to put me on this leaderboard, which gets reset in Season 2. But it seems like this 22-player World Warrior Challenge thing is different than that.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be exactly like Tekken Dojo events, because, and here's why I think that. It's regional final events from the past are no longer part of the CPT. Instead, what we've done is created a competition within the CPT designed to reach more regions around the globe and potentially create grassroots communities in less active regions.
If you just take that regardless of how this ultimately works, if you take that idea, that is a wonderful idea.
Yep. And that's
for Street Fighter and the Capcom Pro Tour.
Yeah, and that's what Tekken Dojo events did.
Cool.
Because the way the Tekken World Tour worked is they would take your top 10 tournament finishes, and those were your points.
Okay.
Right. So you could go to all the dojo events in the world to get it wasn't a negligible amount of points, but it wasn't a big amount of points either. So you could go to like 1 billion dojo events in the world, but if you already had like 10 finishes in a normal tournament that would give you more than dojo tournaments, then you wouldn't have a reason to go. Right? So that's the way that they mitigated, somebody just who could travel the world to go to every dojo event known to man, even though there were multiple happening at the same day.
Split into two, like Seth.
Yeah. So that's the way they mitigated somebody who could travel to all of these from getting too many points over other people.
Okay.
So I don't know how Capcom is going to do this.
Something that's on there too, and I'm sure you notice if you scroll down, or even if you watch the trailer the first time, Capcom Cup taking place in
France.
Paris, France. That's cool. I wonder how the turnout's going to be for that. I wonder if there's a lot that
I honestly think they're just taking a page out of Tekken's book at this point. Also, I love the fact that the first word in this article has a typo.
Why'd you say it?
Look,
I was like, I did notice it, and I was like, oh.
Capcom Esports. No, look, writing's not easy. So I don't blame him. Everybody gets one. That's my rule.
Well, it's also his last one, because he's no longer there.
Yeah.
But he probably had it scheduled to be published on today's date.
Rip.
Something that's in there, I wanted you to get some eyes on this too, because I posted, this was posted on Twitter. But I did notice in looking at these notes, because I'm more excited for the Capcom Pro Tour 2020 because it looks cleaner. Like, we'll have to see how it plays. How many times have we said that like, oh, this new format looks great, and then it's like crazy, right? And then it doesn't work out, and we got to change the format again. But I noticed that the winner of the Capcom Cup in 2020 will not auto-qualify for the Capcom Cup in 2021.
Oh, yeah, I just saw it. Dang.
And I was thinking, does that mean we're getting Street Fighter 6? Because it'd be a different game.
Well, yeah.
If it was a different game, you couldn't qualify for something that, you're like, oh, I'm qualified for a game that, I have no idea if I can even play well. And you suck at it. And then you have to, be the defending champion for a game that you're not good at.
Yeah, Kazunoko did not qualify for Capcom Cup.
He did.
26. Did he?
He did.
for Capcom Cup 2016?
Yeah, he won with Yun, and in 2015.
Yeah. Did he qualify for Street Fighter 5 automatically?
Yep.
I just remember he got the costume.
The only person that didn't qualify, I could be wrong on this. We have the iPad, but the only person I think that did not qualify was Sako in 2013. He beat Chris G, Evil Ryu to Sakura, and he won that, and he didn't auto qualify into 2014's Capcom Cup. I have no idea if that's right. I think it is.
Yeah.
But I remember that being something because then when Momochi won in 2014, it became a why did he get it and Sako didn't?
Yeah.
And then whoever won in 15, I don't know who won. But I just thought that was interesting, and I just kind of put that on Twitter. I was just like, Street Fighter 6 confirmed?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Probably not the case.
Well,
but-
here's the thing. Have you noticed? And it doesn't necessarily mean Street Fighter 6 per se, but have you noticed that they've been having more and more of these free trial periods
Oh yeah, for sure.
where they give you a specific amount of characters that you can play when you download the game for free? I think one of two things can happen at the end of this year. It's either
Next year?
yes,
Okay.
at the end of this upcoming season, either giant overhaul of Street Fighter V to get it to the new generation of consoles, and turning it into a free-to-play game on top of it,
Okay.
or new generation of consoles, Street Fighter 6, free-to-play.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement that one of those two things is going to happen. One of those two things is going to happen. I think I'm leaning more towards the Street Fighter 6 thing
It'd be nice.
because, I don't, I mean, it's not like I have any insider information, and I don't want to be like a troll and say like, oh, I think it's coming. I honestly think it's the case just because we know that the consoles are coming. We know that this game was supported up to 2020.
Yeah.
But what I do think is probably going to be the case, even though it says 2021, and that kind of, in my tinfoil hat theory, what throws a wrench in there is this idea that what I thought that Capcom might do, given what happened from 4 to 5 and what's happened from 5 to whatever comes next, whatever edition happens, was that they were going to have a Capcom Cup in 2020, and then they will have a Capcom Cup in 2021, and it would still feature Street Fighter 5, but that they would, along that time period, say, we are working on Street Fighter 6. They do a King of Fighters situation where it's like, Street Fighter 6, here's the logo. Don't expect this in 2021. We are super going in and like trying to, or I guess, yeah, don't expect it in 2021. And we're going to really make sure that this one is like completely fine-tuned.
Here's why I don't agree with you.
Okay.
And why I think if it does come out, it'll be coming out for the beginning of the 2021 season, is the fact that they've already mitigated expectations for 2020. They've said, we're not going to change the game up much, if at all, because we want to keep it mostly the same for this Olympic event. And that's what we're focusing on. So
Right.
if the esports department is focusing solely on this Olympic endeavor, as it were, no pun intended, what is the R&D department of Capcom going to be doing throughout that time if they're not working on the game?
I mean, the thing that we'd believe initially would be like balancing for the next season. If you didn't think that anything else was coming.
Yeah. But to have them, well, first of all, good on them for finally mitigating expectations and being like, hey, we're not going to change the game much, instead of being like, there's no season pass by.
We're doing things different this year.
But good on them for mitigating expectations and letting us know what their plan is. But with that said, I think it's also like setting up for them to dump resources into the next game.
Okay.
Now, that's just a gut feeling type of thing. I am open to being completely wrong about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I think we both are of the opinion that it's not we want to be right. I think, like I said, my basis was just that, and it's like it's such a trickle effect. 'Cause I know I tweeted this out a while ago, but one of the things that I tweeted was when I found out that the Assassin's Creed game, the next one's coming out on next gen consoles, and it's coming out holiday of that. I was just thinking, oh, Street Fighter 5 is supported through that time, And if PlayStation wants to keep Street Fighter on that console, then they need to have it as like a launch title.
Yep.
Not launches in day one, but like the console comes out, let's say November, hypothetically. Then you have this thing like December 14th.
Yep. Well, here's the other thing too.
Right for the holidays.
Was it Mortal Kombat that recently came out with the update that is now crossplay between everything?
Was it Mortal Kombat? I guess. I think it was a fighting game that did it.
Yeah. Because to a degree, Capcom or Street Fighter V does have the crossplay between Steam and PlayStation 4.
Mm-hmm.
They recently, Fortnite was able to finally crack the Sony greedy standpoint and allow crossplay for Fortnite. Minecraft is following suit in just a little bit with Switch, Xbox, PC, PlayStation 4.
Cool.
I'm fairly certain I saw that MK11's next.
Okay.
For crossplay.
What are you thinking?
So is it possible that Street Fighter will no longer be a PlayStation exclusive and it'll just be crossplay for everyone?
Sure. I mean, I don't...
Something to think about.
I feel like the word logistics is almost like a meme now. But as far as the logistics of it, I wonder if looking back on all this, Street Fighter V not being on the Xbox hurt it in any way. I mean, looking at it now, probably not.
Yeah.
With what happened with the Xbox One. But to think about it from the perspective of, like, I had Street Fighter 4 on both consoles, the PS3 and the Xbox. Yeah. And I never played it on the PS3.
See, I didn't have an Xbox.
It was garbage. So
here's the thing. On the exact flip side of that, look at Killer Instinct, dude. If Killer Instinct wasn't a console exclusive, I think it would be huge.
Yeah, probably. So, but yeah, those are all my topics
we did
for today. I would say thanks for listening and watching. I have no idea if we're going to do this again. Probably, but
only the stars will know.
It's just a matter of like if the schedules line up. But
well, I mean, you said you wanted to compete this coming year. Hey, and Texas Showdown is now a premier event. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, we'll see. This is gonna make it seem like I'm making an excuse. I gotta say that ahead of time. I feel like I need like the headset, something that Ryan Harvey.
Yeah, he used to bring his own speaker.
He brings like he's like his own splitter because he connects like his own thing to it. And I should hit him up on Twitter and figure out how like the logistics of how he does that.
Yeah, him and Forwood.
Yeah, Forwood. Yes. Okay.
Display lag Forwood.
Right. I was thinking. I would like to do something like that because something that I've always I think I've talked to you guys about tournament stuff is that I don't know if I really get nerves per se. Not now. But I feel like my biggest thing is like being cramped between other people and like these chairs where other people are standing behind me. There's somebody yelling like, "Yo, B24! I need B20." I'm like, this is such like a weird. I mean, and I get that in the FGC, it's kind of always been like that.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to be zoned in. I want to be able to roll up, be like, "Hi, I'm here to play for my match." I go, "Okay, sit here." I connect the thing, put on my headphones, I listen to the game, and I play.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be like delays or whatever the case is. So we'll see.
That's why I don't go to tournaments anymore. Like this hurry up and wait is, I ain't got time for that no more.
And hopefully this doesn't make me sound like a weird competitor, but I feel like with the way my life is kind of going outside of the fighting game space, right? Even the video game space with other things I have going on in my life, I just think that like if I'm going to compete, I feel like it would be because I know I can win. Now whether I win is a different thing.
Yeah.
But it's that I'm going into it being like, I can do this. It's not about training. It's not really about like the dedication. It's like, this is something that like I have the natural aptitude for and I'm good at it. And with that in mind, I can go to these events and like, I'll place like top 13, top 18. If I push a little bit harder, maybe I can make it in that top 8. If that was happening, then maybe I would go all in. But regardless of how you feel about Ryu, my character isn't all that good enough to compete, and I just don't have the scheduling.
Yeah.
And, like, I got to get the plane ticket. We got to do the hotel. I've got to, like, get off from work. And I just, for all of that, just to go, like...
0-2.
Like, well, even if it is an 0-2, like, it could be, like...
3-2.
Yeah, 3-2. It's just like, and then I'm, like, hanging out with this venue, trying to make friends or trying to talk to people. It's like... Or I can spend the money I would spend on that on something else. So we'll see.
With these World Warrior tours, maybe you won't have to travel.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Let's go to Arcade UFO.
Oh, man. Have you been there recently?
Nope.
I went there to show my girlfriend. I kind of showed her like, this is where I used to play Street Fighter 4. Don't do that. Don't go to Arcade UFO.
What was happening?
It's just a weeb fest, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if it happened to be like a Halloween thing or something was going on, but it was just, well, let's just say it this way. College kids never grow up.
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, watching. We'll see you guys next time.
That's the end.